So our next topic is imperialism. Imperialism is one of the most significant consequences of industrial revolution. It is one most important consequence. The growing industrialization in European countries could no longer be sustained within these countries. Okay, and there was need for new territories. There was need for new territories which could serve as source of cheap raw materials as well as market for mass production produced goods. They need the new territories for what, that serve as a source of cheap raw material and also the market. And this led to the rise of imperialism, and which implies the policy of extending power and influence of an empire, kingdom or country over another country by dismissing or controlling its government. The imperialistic power usually occupies and control a territory by military force. When the occupying force engaged in exploitation of resources of the occupied territory, imperialism then become colonialism. When imperialism is developed, then they become into colonialism, and in which the controlling force became the colonial power and controlled territory become the colony. When they go into any country, they settle there and they create the colonies, and that's what this method or this way is called as colonialism. So imperialism changed into colonialism when they move in another countries. During the 19th and the 20th century, countries like Britain, France, Netherlands, Italy, Germany, Spain, Portugal, and later the USA and Japan were engaged in the scramble for colonies in Asian and African countries. They also engaged in these activities, this colonialism. And reason for imperialism. What are the reasons? That economic reasons, that in the wake of massive industrialization, European governments and their trading companies started looking for markets for their finished products and supply of cheap raw materials. And trading companies such as the English East India Company tried to developing trade relation with distant land. English East India Company, they also try to develop their activities with the help of the another lands, another countries, and they also try to do the trading activity with another land, and including Asia, Africa, Latin America, and which were rich in resources. And this further resulted in the occupation of this land by imperialistic countries of Europe like the Dutch, Portuguese, French, and British. And these powers often competed with each other for the resources, markets, and trade, which led to many wars between them. And exploratory reasons. So imperial nation and their citizens wanted to explore new territories. They always want to explore new territories, and sometimes they did this for the sense of adventure with hopes of finding rich in distant land. Sometimes they adventure in some places for the spread of territories, and imperial explorers would either do it for national and personal glory or to serve the imperialistic goal of economic and territorial expansion. Next is white man's burden. Imperial nations believed that their cultural values or belief were superior. They believe that these are superior to other nation or groups. Okay, and they believe that their sophisticated and superior culture would improve the lives of backward and inferior people of the colonies and civilize them. And the native people, they think that their culture is very superior in nature, and this will be helpful for the colonies, okay, and backward classes. Next is impact of imperialism. That imperialism caused significant changes in the social, economic, and political setup of the society. Native people were ruled by foreign powers and lost their political independence. So native people were ruled by foreign powers, so they want to rule the foreigners, but they already ruled by foreign powers and lost their political independence, and they lost their all independence. And imperialistic powers engaged in sharp exploitation of resources of colonies, and it destroyed their self-sufficient economy through introduction of machine products good as these colonies became markets for this good. And imperialistic wars also happened between colonists and native peoples and resulted in destruction of property and loss of life, and that's what the property are destructed and lives also lost. And racial segregation was widely practiced in colonies, and the natives were considered second-class citizens, and natives, they selected them as a second-class citizen. And high tax rates imposed by colonies caused poverty, hunger, disease, and famine in colonies. And imperialism also introduced modern Western ideas of democracy, law, and specific advancement in the colonies, and which in turn brought revolutionary idea of freedom. And for this unfavorable condition, that the native people, they try to collect their previous freedom, and somewhere also happened, and they always try to the equality and the justice.